When used properly, your Vermeer stump cutter will give you many hours of productive service. It is equipped with useful safety features to help protect you from serious injury. But safe work practices are also a necessary part of accident prevention. The machine is capable of serious injury if used improperly. Exercise caution and use good judgment. Your safety depends on it. This video will present selected operating procedures for a Vermeer stump cutter. But this video is not a substitute for a thorough and complete reading and understanding of the operator's manual and its safety instructions. You have received 2 operator's manuals with your machine. One comes in a resource library of materials shipped with your machine. The other is attached to the machine so that it is always close at hand. Before operating the machine, always read the operator's manual, know its content, and follow its instructions. Allow only responsible, properly trained people to operate the stump cutter. Carefully supervise any inexperienced operators. Advise anyone who will operate it to read the operator's manual carefully and watch this video. As you prepare the stump cutter for transportation to your cutting site, there are a few things to keep in mind. First, make sure the stump cutter does not overload the hitch and suspension capacity of the towing vehicle. Attach the stump cutter securely to the towing vehicle. Connect the safety chains, crossing them under the tongue. Leave enough slack to turn corners. Attach the breakaway cable if your unit is equipped with brakes. Attach the electrical connector. If your unit has a jack, raise it and secure it in place. Check that the highway lights are working properly. If your unit has brakes, make sure they are working properly before you drive on public roads. You're now ready to transport the stump cutter to the job site. When you arrive at the work site, remove loose chunks of wood, stones, wire, or any other foreign objects from the stump and from the work area. Any of these objects could be a dangerous projectile if thrown by the stump cutter. When you've finished checking out the site, back the stump cutter up to the stump. For most models, you should not disconnect the stump cutter from the towing vehicle. The towing vehicle serves as an anchor for the machine. Some Vermeer models are self-propelled. Often, they are trailered to the job site. Before backing self-propelled models off the trailer, engage both drive wheels to help keep the unit from turning unexpectedly and running off the side of the trailer. When you move a self-propelled stump cutter over an area of poor traction or uneven terrain, it will help to have both drive wheels engaged. This will improve traction and reduce the chances of sudden, unexpected turning. However, it will also make the machine harder to steer. Use good judgment in these situations. Be alert to the possibility of rollover when moving the machine on side slopes. As a precaution, stand on the uphill side of the machine whenever transporting across side slopes. Also, be alert whenever moving the machine near holes or obstacles to avoid tipping the machine. At the site, if your machine has a swing-out control station, swing it out to the operating position. This is required even if you'll be using remote controls. When operating the stump cutter without remote control, the operator must stay behind the control station's viewing shield. Be sure to keep the polycarbonate viewing shield clean so you have a clear view of the stump and cutter wheel while operating. Lower any chip containment curtains into place. This is an important safety step. The curtains help contain thrown objects. Depending on your model stump cutter, disengage the tongue extension lock to allow the cutter wheel to extend into the stump. Disengage the boom transport lock to allow the cutter wheel to be raised and lowered. Keep the cutter wheel guard in place and lowered when cutting a stump. The lowered guard will help deflect material downward, reducing the amount of material thrown out beyond the cutter wheel area. The guard also helps keep you away from the rotating cutter wheel. Remember, the most effective way to protect yourself from injury is to stay away whenever the cutter wheel is turning. Before you start the engine and begin cutting, make sure you're wearing personal protective equipment. These include a hard hat, hearing protection, safety glasses or goggles, reflective clothing if working near traffic, and work shoes. If your unit doesn't have a polycarbonate protective shield, or if you're using the wireless remote control, you must also wear a full-face shield along with your safety glasses. With all controls in their neutral positions, start the engine of the stump cutter according to the instructions found in the operator's manual. Make sure there are no other workers or spectators near the machine. All stump cutters have the following functions. Check your operator's manual for the proper control lever to use for each function. Each stump cutter model can be moved into or away from the stump. If your unit has brakes, disconnect the brake cable. You can lower or raise the cutter wheel for a deeper or shallower cut of the stump. Use the cutter wheel swing control to move the cutter wheel across the stump. There is a correct way to cut a stump with the Vermeer stump cutter. First, cut the stump using the recommended cutting area of the cutter wheel. Never undercut the stump. Undercutting can cause violent kickback and component damage. To cut the stump, first, position the machine at the side of the stump as shown here. Have your cutter wheel disengaged while you do this. Prepare to make a first cut through the stump. With your engine speed at idle, engage the cutter wheel. Never go near the rotating cutter wheel. Contact with the rotating cutter wheel can cause serious injury, dismemberment, or death. Raise your engine speed to full RPM. Lower your cutting wheel, and using the swing control, make a first light cut through the stump. Before you continue, take note of the hardness of the wood and the depth of your cut. Some wood will be harder to cut, requiring you to adjust the depth of your cut and your cross-travel speed. The speed of the cutter wheel swing can be adjusted manually. Or if your model has the optional auto sweep, the cross-travel speed of the cutter wheel will be automatically adjusted to maintain the correct engine RPM. As you make a deeper cut, the cross-travel speed will slow down. As the cut becomes thinner, the travel speed will increase. As you continue the cut, lower your cutter wheel and make a deeper cut into the stump. Continue cutting the stump, lowering the cutter wheel after each pass before swinging it across the stump again. Heed all warnings on the machine decals. When you've cut into the stump approximately half the diameter of the cutter wheel, raise the cutter wheel and move the cutter wheel further into the stump. Note this diagram. This procedure will help you avoid undercutting the stump. Accumulated chips around the stump may need to be raked away before you can finish cutting the stump. Be sure to stop the engine and wait for the cutter wheel to stop turning before raking the chips. For normal shutdown of the stump cutter, follow these procedures. Reduce engine throttle to idle. Disengage the cutter wheel. Stop the engine and remove the key. Wait for the cutter wheel to stop turning. If you want to stop the cutter wheel more quickly, there are two methods you can use. The quickest method is to shut off the engine while the cutter wheel is engaged. Another method is to first disengage the clutch and then lower the cutter wheel into the stump or spoil pile. After the cutter wheel has stopped turning, move the cutter wheel away from the stump, shut off the engine and remove the key. With the cutter wheel stopped, you can safely rake the chips away from the stump. With the chips removed, you can finish cutting the stump. If you're using a remote-controlled Vermeer stump cutter, there are additional important operational and safety measures you must take. Remember, if you operate the stump cutter using the remote and you're not behind the polycarbonate shield of the control station, you must wear a full face shield in addition to your safety glasses and other personal protective equipment. When using the radio remote control to cut the stump, switch to Remote at the control station, turn on power to the remote, and move to a position in the designated operator area. For stump cutters with the remote control option, there is a prohibited area. This area is shown on a safety sign on the machine and in the operator's manual. You must stay out of this prohibited area when operating the stump cutter. Material is likely to be thrown into this area and has the greatest potential for serious personal injury. Staying out of the designated prohibited area will also keep you from contacting the cutter wheel. Remember to keep the cutter wheel guard lowered. Cutter wheel guards are especially designed to restrict thrown material. Never remove them and always keep them lowered during operation. A correct operator's position when using the remote is in the designated operator area. This area has some potential for serious personal injury from objects thrown by the cutter wheel. Remember to always wear appropriate personal protective equipment when using the remote in the operator area. When cutting the stump, follow the instructions for using the remote found in your operator's manual. If during operation you wish to get a closer look at the stump, go to the control station and view the stump through the viewing shield. Maintain a proper distance from the cutter wheel by staying in the operator area when walking to the control station. If a situation arises that you need to stop the cutter wheel quickly, press the red Engine Stop on the remote control. The engine will stop with the cutter wheel still engaged. Be sure to follow your manual's instructions for resetting the Engine Stop button before you resume operation. The Engine Stop button should be used for quick stop situations only. For normal shutdown, use the procedures described in your operator's manual. To prepare the machine for transport, raise the cutter wheel and center it. Engage the boom transport lock. Retract the tongue and install the transport lock. Install the locking clip. Shut off the engine and remove the key. Roll up and secure the control station's protective curtain. Swing in the control station and lock it in the transport position. Roll up and secure any other chip containment curtains on your machine. With the stump cutter prepared for transport, check to make sure your machine is securely hitched to the towing vehicle, safety chains are in place, and all electrical connectors have been secured. The Vermeer stump cutters will give you many hours of valuable service. Your responsibility is to make sure you read and understand the instructions in the operator's manual so you can operate the stump cutters safely.